there, I'm Keith Fuller, founder of All About EX. This is a service that helps startups with all things people. And I want to thank John Bruchot, the fabulous folks at Arch Virtual, for inviting me out today to talk about how to have effective one-on-ones. So this is a tool that should be in every manager's, every leader's toolbox, regardless of the size of the company, age of the company, regardless of the industry you're in, because it's solving a critical problem. And that is that people tend to leave managers rather than leave companies. And what that means to you as a manager is building rapport and establishing trust and open communication with the folks for whom you're responsible is possibly the most important responsibility you have. And the one-on-one is a simple and darn near free tool that allows you to do this. So here are some of the critical bits of having an effective one-on-one. The two key words that I really want to focus on at the outset are regular and frequent. So regular means you schedule these, they happen, they're on a calendar, and you don't miss them or skip them unless something apocalyptically bad has occurred. And if that does happen, then you reschedule immediately. So you never leave your team member wondering, were we going to have a one-on-one? Did we postpone that? Did we skip it completely? Because the message that you're sending anytime you say something like, oops, I know we're supposed to have your one-on-one now, but I forgot my dry cleaning, we're skipping it this week. The message you're sending there is, you're less important than my shirts. So you want to make sure that these are regular and scheduled events on your calendar. And when I say frequent, this varies from person to person, from discipline to discipline. You know, an engineer may have a different idea about frequent than somebody in sales. But you want to make sure that not too much time has elapsed in between one-on-ones, that you're maintaining a continuity of updates, that you know what are the critical current events in the team member's life and in their workplace. You also don't want to do it too frequently. There may well be team members that want to have a one-on-one every day, but at some point you absolutely have to do a little cost-benefit analysis of your time as the leader. So you want these to be regular, you want them to be frequent. And another question that comes up a lot, well, I've never done one-on-ones. Um, how often is too often? What I would say is this: if you've never set up a one-on-one with a team member, start at 30 minutes every 2 weeks. That's something that shouldn't be too onerous to anybody, even if they are someone who would really prefer to be at their desk working on their tasks instead of in a room talking one-on-one with somebody. But it's also going to be enough time for you to keep up to date on what's important with them. My ideal that I suggest you head towards as a manager is spending an hour every week with every person for whom you're responsible. That may sound like a lot. That may sound like it's asking a lot of your time and your schedule. But these are the people for whom you're responsible. And we're going to talk about the sorts of things you should be discussing in a one-on-one. And you'll understand why it is that an hour really isn't too much time. So the sorts of things that you might want to discuss. Imagine the time that you spend together in a one-on-one as a pie chart. And it has roughly 3 equal slices. And the first one, you absolutely want to open this up. Hey, you tell me what's important to you. Have the team member share what are obstacles they're facing, what are challenges they're dealing with, things that you as the manager could help remove that's between them and success. So you want to hear from them. There may also be information that you need to share with them, something that gets disseminated. Hey, did you know the CEO said we're going to have the all hands meeting on Thursday this week instead of on Friday? So pieces of information that need to go top down and get disseminated to everybody, or observations that you have made from daily coaching, from interacting with the team member, that you want to make sure you share. Commentary, feedback on performance, those sorts of things. And the third area is you want to make sure you talk about their development. What does their career progression look like? What are development goals that they have? These are the sorts of things that you don't ever want to have fall by the wayside. You don't want the team member to feel like, does that still apply to me? Is that still important? Does my manager care if I make progress? Keep bringing them up. Make sure that we know where things stand. Set an explicit goal and track it. Talk about the progress. Help them remove any obstacles. So those are some of the key areas that I would suggest you start talking about. The idea of asking them for their thoughts, their input, any questions they have, sharing with them any sorts of things that you think are important, information to be disseminated, feedback that you need to give, and make sure you talk about their development goals. So those are roughly the three big areas that you should be talking about. Now, a one-on-one is here to build rapport first and foremost. And if that means that, I'm dealing with a teammate and all they want to do is talk about the status of their widgets, their tasks, okay, if that's what's safe for them, that's where you start. Ideally, we're going to be getting to things that are less facile, less superficial, where we're getting to deeper issues. A suggestion that I give managers is, listen, realize that this is the ultimate high bandwidth opportunity for your team member and you to discuss things. They absolutely have something going on in their professional life that they would consider uncomfortable. They will not have a better environment, a better setting to discuss something like that than a one-on-one with you. So I encourage people to consider, hey, have something uncomfortable that you would want to bring up and make sure that you're solving with them. So those are some of the guidelines around how often to have a one-on-one, what sort of things you should discuss. And since you are critically here building rapport, it doesn't have to happen in your office or at someone's desk. Uh, Walk around the block, go get coffee, but make sure that you're having these on a regular basis and frequently, and that you have the idea we shared there about the three rough topics that you might want to bring up in a one-on-one. What you'll find is that you are helping to establish trust, open communication, and you're helping remove obstacles and provide professional development for everyone on your team. And all of that for just the investment of 30 minutes every 2 weeks. No need to purchase any pricey software subscription or go any place special. You don't need any tools, just the two of you talking. That's a pretty good deal. So those are my thoughts on having an effective one-on-one. And I think that in general, a good thing to do anytime that you share information is to then open up a little bit of role playing to show this is how this might actually look in real life. So for that purpose, I would invite John to come up here with me and we'll do a little bit of role playing, just a sample of how you might broach some of these topics in a one-on-one. John?
All right, excellent. Thanks, Keith. That was fantastic. Fascinating insights. What I'm actually going to do is stop this recording and we'll create another segment of the recording with the role play, and we'll have another object that you'll be able to press play on to watch the second part of this recording. So we'll go ahead and end it here, and you'll want to press play.
So we already talked about the fundamentals of an effective one-on-one, and we talked about having three main buckets to discuss. And the first of which being, you want to make sure that the team member has a chance to share any sort of obstacles they may be facing, any concerns they have. And the second being anything you want to share with them, company information to disseminate, feedback that you have. And the third is any sort of development goal, anything related to their career progression. So for the purposes of doing a little bit of an example of role playing through this scenario, I've brought in John here, and he's going to be my team member. I'm going to be the manager here at Arch Virtual. And we're going to go through these three things in a very condensed fashion. Certainly recommend that you do more than 10 minutes with your one-on-ones. But this will give folks an example of how you can broach these subjects and how you can have a little bit of this conversation, which hopefully, again, is driving the main purpose of one-on-ones, which is me building rapport with my team member. So thanks for coming in, John.
I really appreciate it, Keith. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So for our weekly one-on-one here, want to start off and make sure that you have a chance to tell me how are things going? Anything that I should know about with your work?
Things are going great. Yeah, it's been a busy week, but we've got a lot of progress and we've made a lot of progress and we have some exciting momentum on this recording feature. We've been getting a lot of
Good.
ideas put together about how to start capturing more examples of how this feature can be used, and it's been very exciting.
Excellent. Excellent. Is there anything that I can help with as far as anything that's keeping you from getting your work done?
That's a great question. I appreciate you asking that. We actually are kind of getting held up right now. We had a webcam that we were going to use to combine the video of the person that we're recording with the 3D recording in Acadicus, but the webcam hasn't been working. It's got, I don't know if it's a driver issue, so we're stuck without a camera right now. Do you happen to have access, or does the company have another camera that we could use for that purpose?
I do not have one on me, but I will absolutely get one for you.
Okay,
So
great.
I don't know if I can get that by the end of the day, but certainly this week you will have a web camera that you can use for that purpose, to be
Perfect.
sure.
Great. I appreciate that. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, you bet. So something I want to make sure that you know about. So we have had some fantastic guests coming through the office in the past couple of weeks, some of them being some wonderful folks from American Family. And I want to make sure you know that some of the work that we've been doing, providing sample recordings, these sorts of things, will be presented to them just as a work in progress. Here's the sort of stuff you can be doing with Acadicus and with VR recording for training purposes. So you aren't caught off guard by any of that going forward. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. In fact, we have a really exciting instruction coming up with somebody that has a lot of tips and tricks on how to do an effective 101 that we could record and actually show it to those guests. I think that would be a great way to demonstrate to them the use case of this 3D recording feature and for role playing in the scenario. So we'll hopefully have that done in time for their next tour.
Perfect. Perfect. Glad you mentioned that. And then I want to also make sure that we get a chance to go back to your development goals. So something that we touched on in the past couple of weeks was a goal of yours for building up presentation skills and public speaking. And one of the milestones we had there was for you to plan on doing a 10-minute presentation on VR training. How's that coming?
It's coming along well. Yeah, I've got a very rough outline prepared, and I've been kind of going back and forth on whether or not I do better when I read from a script or if I just have an outline in mind and I kind of come up with it as I go. I'm finding that I do much better if I have a script, but I'm a little bit worried that when I deliver the presentation, it's going to be like I'm reading from a script, and I don't want it to be that scripted, so to speak.
Right.
So I'm trying to get whether I'm trying to figure out whether I need to memorize the script just so that I'm not reading from it so that I can deliver it more clearly, or if I just need more practice, or if in fact I just need to work with the outline and speak from the heart on the fly, so to speak. I'm not sure which is the best approach right now.
Gotcha. And I totally understand the trade-off there between, well, I would certainly feel more comfortable if I have something to read, but I don't want it to come off too staid or impersonal. I can tell you for my own purposes, what I do is I build up an outline over the course of probably weeks for any sort of presentation that I'm going to do. So by the time the day arrives, boy, I have seen that list of bullet points so many times. But what I will do for preparation is set my timer, know that the 10 minutes that I'm going to be doing is running on the clock, and then I will just do 4 different run-throughs in the week leading up to the presentation itself. In my experience, 4 of them is really good for driving home the points that I want to make sure that I share, making sure that I'm sticking to the time constraints, getting all the material out there, but not too many that by the day of the presentation itself, it comes off as being too memorized or scripted. Just a suggestion, do with that as you see fit. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And one of the other questions that I had was, how do when I am actually doing any kind of communications or public speaking, I get very nervous. I have anxiety, sort of public speaking
Sure.
fear. And I've heard different tips and ideas about how to prepare for how to simulate that sort of nervousness. I think Tim Ferriss even talks about presenting in front of a group of chihuahuas,
Yeah.
and and seeing if you can keep their attention. Do you have any ideas for how can I practice and get that sensation of nerves worked up so that I can kind of expose myself to that feeling so that when I do give the presentation, I'm less likely to feel as nervous? Is there anything you would recommend?
I gotta tell you, I have spoken in front of lots of different crowds, different sizes, different locations. The most terrified I've ever been was in front of a group of about 40 people where I literally knew every single one of them personally. And that was the most horrific experience of my public speaking career. Uh, a tip that I would suggest to you, well, one, go in knowing that there's always a measure of the butterflies, a little bit of anxiety. The most polished public speakers still have that. They just learn methods for coping. But a tip that I would share is uh, plan the first sentence that you're going to say, maybe the first two. And that is okay to memorize. Just know in advance, these are the exact words that I'm going to say so that you know when you step up to that podium or you're in front of the room, these are the words that are coming out for sure. And then you know how to move through the rest of it from there. I find that the biggest source of friction is just getting those first words out. And then you can move forward in a more successful way without the whole thing being scripted. So try that out and see if that works for you.
I will. Thank you very much. That sounds great.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for coming in. And certainly during the week before our next one-on-one, if anything comes up, you have any concerns, or if that webcam doesn't show up, let me know and I'll absolutely get on it.
Great. I will. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it, Keith.
You bet. Take care, John.
All right. Take care. Bye bye.